Hi, everybody. Eric Dorward here with the Spartan Rocketry Club, and we're continuing this build of the Estes DARC 1, which is a sci-fi looking thing. Uh, so the front end of this is a huge piece of plastic, and unfortunately, a lot of it needs to be cut. So, yeah, please be very careful when you do this. First and foremost, like if your hobby knife is not new, or even if it is fairly new and it doesn't look as nice as it could, this is definitely time to get yourself a new blade. So I have an absolute ton of them here. They are not expensive. This is definitely a time when it's going to save everybody involved a lot of trouble if you switch out and get yourself a new blade. It's nice and sharp. Naturally, of course, you should safely dispose of the old one. Don't just chuck it in the trash can because people have to work with that. So what I'm going to do is, at the very least, this is the first thing I'm going to do. I'm going to get myself a piece of masking tape here. And go. And I'm going to tape around the blade. Oops. Yeah. So there. It will be much harder for anyone to cut themselves now, but still, like, just don't just chuck it in the trash. All right, next. So this big thing needs to be cut apart in multiple places. Look at the instructions carefully and see where you're supposed to be cutting. This may take the entire video as an FYI. So these two little protrusions here, they need to go. So take your time. This is one of those things where you don't want to rush it. Now, at least one previous video, I broke out my Dremel tool to cut through some plastic. This is not the time or place for that, if for no other reason than this is very small. It's better to be doing this slowly and methodically. So it's probably going to take multiple passes before you cut through, and that's fine. What I'm actually going to do, now that I'm thinking about it, is I'm going to etch the back and the front of this as well, which hopefully will act as kind of like a rip stop. So and I probably will, if I'm cutting and the blade slips a little bit, having notches at the back and the front, well, the back in particular, should catch it so that I don't cut farther than I want to. And that's the big risk here, right? If it takes 15 passes to cut this out, okay, I mean, that's annoying. It's your time. I'm through, by the way, here. But what you don't want to do is cut too far because you can't really undo that. All right, so I'm about the back half of that is cut through. Should be then fairly easy to get the front. So kind of once you get through, it tends to cut easily. All right, so that part. Whoop, oh, how about that? Looks like I sliced through like a weak spot here. That's interesting. Yeah. Let's see if I can't. Well, I don't really want to cut it like that. Yeah, I don't know why, but it feels like I found like a weak spot in the whole construction right there. And the knife just went right through it. Okay. I think what I'm actually doing, I'm cutting through kind of the middle of the part where it was blown out in the construction process, which is presumably a weak spot, which is fine. All right, so largely this is cut through. It's just the front and the back ends now that are kind of holding it in place. So let's see if I can't dislodge the back. There we go. And then we'll just kind of peel it. All right, So that's off. This is not done because it's hard to see even for me in person, but there's a lip here that needs to go. It's not flat. So I'm going to try to run the knife gently. I'm going to get my hand out of the way. And I'm just going to kind of peel off the excess here into this nice little curly Q. There. All right. That looks pretty good. Now, a fin needs to go in here, a wooden fin. I would suspect that this is not wide enough right now. However, if it's not wide enough, that's something we can deal with down the road. And yeah, we'll need to break out the hobby knife again and widen it a little bit. I am not going to get bent out of shape about that right now because I don't really know if it's too wide or too narrow. So it's fine. If it needs to be widened, it will be. I suspect like the back in particular, like it looks wider here than it does back there, but we'll adjust this later. The other one over here needs to be cut out. I'll do that off camera. Now flip it over. This little protrusion here apparently needs to be cut off. This is the landing gear. No, wait, no. This is where the launch lug comes out, I believe. So I'm going to try again to make a cut at the front. So, and the back, well, this is pretty rounded, so this might be a little bit harder to make a notch in it, but we'll give it a try. I think I'm going to cut this direction from the narrow end to the wider end. My gut tells me that will be easier. Again, multiple passes. This is not something you need to do in the first pass. In fact, that would probably be bad if you do manage to punch through it in the first pass. That might not end well. Okay. I feel like I'm getting pretty close here. And it is worth noting, too, that in my experience, the parts that have been blown out like this, the plastic tends to be weaker in kind of odd spots. Sometimes this is just really painfully difficult. It takes 20 passes to get through it. Sometimes, like on that far side, the second side I was cutting on the other side, the first cut that I made, it went through right away. So better safe than sorry. You want this to be accurate, not necessarily fast. I do feel like I'm getting pretty close though. But I guess we'll see. Time will tell. And again, it's just a little bit of time. This seems to be a particularly thick part of the model, which is fine. That just makes it really strong. Because I'm basically cut through up here at the top, but not anywhere else. See, I can get my blade. My blade is in there. I could try to force it down and drag it, but I just don't think that's going to end well. All right. Let's try the other side. Not that I'm giving up or anything, but this is pretty rough on, at least I find it to be rough on the knuckle joints. But again, this is not something I would want to give in to temptation and break out my Dremel tool to do. It is much too delicate work. And if it takes a whole bunch of passes, then so be it. Yeah, I think part of the reason here is that I'm kind of carving in diagonally into the plastic, so it's it's thicker on the diagonal than it would be just straight up and down. Let's try to clear out some of the cuts I've made here. It feels like it's getting close, but it's felt, whoop, yeah, there's a very top, I think is free almost. I don't know. Just, it feels like it's right on the verge. But it does not want to go just quite yet. Let's try it from the other direction. Maybe that'll help. Actually, yeah. That seems to have made some progress on this side. I think that side's pretty close. This side, it's all very close. Well, hopefully it'll come out here in the next minute. This isn't perhaps not the most exciting thing you could be watching on YouTube today, but yeah, it's got to be done. Anyway, yeah, so whenever I get this cut through, this is where this has like two purposes as far as I can tell. One is it's where the launch lug is going to come out of this thing, which is an interesting choice in construction. And when you are not flying this, there's a decorative like landing gear that you can stick in here. My goodness. We should be glad that the whole thing isn't plastic that we have to cut apart. And I say that knowing that the next step in this is to cut off the back of this right here and then cut this off, which is gonna stink. So maybe I'll come back to that in a bit. Yeah, so let's cut through this, I guess, the back part here. I'm supposed to start, I guess, looking at the instructions, I'm supposed to start right here. Right, and just follow the outside of it. This part, all of it's going to come off later, so yeah, oops. There's less to trace, so that line is not going to be particularly accurate. I just want to get back. There we go. Back in the groove. Now that's going to be unpleasant to cut through, because that looks pretty thick. So, yeah. And there's no real guidance here. You know what? Maybe this one is something that should be taken off with a Dremel tool. I don't know. But I'm kind of committed to the process of using a hobby knife at this point. Ugh. Yeah, boy, this is a lot of cutting. Just be patient. That's my recommendation here. This part, I'm just going to kind of skip this. All I really want to be able to do is get the edge here. Man, this is going to take just about forever. Okay, all right, that's fine. Let's notch this part too. Ooh, yeah, I went too far there, and I at least scored the part that I'm not supposed to, like right there. Yeah, that's annoying. That's my hands getting a little tired, I guess. So I'm gonna try to sand that off. I mean, it's a cut, so I can't like sand the cut away, but it was bad. Ugh. All right. The problem is once you start down a bad path like that, you might end up following it more just because that's where the groove is. So I have to be extra careful there that I don't. So I'm going to put like 3 or 4 traces. All right. This is obviously, well, all this is going to take a lot of time. It's going to take a lot of time to watch or to get this through, and it's frankly not worth watching. I've scored everything up. I'm just going to have to trace over it again and again and again and again, and eventually it'll come apart. But it's probably not worth recording all that. So I'm going to finish the rest of this off camera. When I do, I will pick it back up, and we'll see you in that next video. See you then.